But today was bad. Light work, people. Light work. Seems we're soft all over the pitch. Good evening, people. Good evening. You're very, very welcome. You're very welcome to another episode of REDFELLAS on a Sunday night. Happy Father's Day to all celebrating all around the world. You're all doing a magnificent, fantastic job. Just as good as the mothers. We can't forget the mothers, but today is the Father's Day, so we say Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all. You're all very welcome. It's Sunday night. That can only mean one thing. It means REDFELLAS in the building. And joining me tonight, I've got the ever reliable, the extra happy today because what we'll discuss why today. Conroy in the building. Conroy, how are you, my friend?
Good. Better than last weekend because Scotland got hammered by Republic of Ireland. So yeah, definitely a better mood this weekend. And young Calvin Ramsay signed for Liverpool today, which it's really, I was saying to Grizz earlier, it's any Scottish player signing for top teams is a good day for a Scottish person, to be perfectly honest, because we've not had many in the last 10 years. So yeah, pretty happy with that. And for Evan, because he's not here. And I've realised that some basketball pundits are just as bad as football pundits. Just a little 0 for Steph Curry here, and got the Golden State Warriors cap on for Evan because basically, again, Steph Curry, shout out to him. The pundits wrote him off, and he won another championship. So that's for Evan because he couldn't make it on today. But yeah, doing well, Grizz. Looking forward to the chat tonight.
Good. Yeah, of course, we're going to get your take on Calvin Ramsay and all things Scottish fullbacks later on. But it's good, nice of you to remember Evan as well, who unfortunately can't make it. But someone who can make it today and it's been a wonderful, wonderful asset and very welcome. And he's very welcome tonight again is Mr. Steve Plunkett. How are you, pal?
I'm very good, mate. Yeah, looking forward to this. It's been alive, wasn't it, on social media with all the feedback and everyone getting involved. So hope all of those people would have tuned in, smashed the like button, get it in early doors so they get it done. This is going to be interesting and fun, I would imagine too, mate. So yeah, all good for me.
Excellent. And last, but by no means least, we've got Randy Savage, the Macho Man, in the building.
Oh,
I mean, Dean. Dean smashed it with that shout. I mean, I tell you, if people don't know who the Macho Man Randy Savage is, have a quick Google before you come back and laugh. But Big K is in the building. Big K, you are so welcome, my brother. I know you've been on adventures, wild adventures, and we can still see, even though you're back in the UK, you're still dressing wild, looking wild. I must admit though, if anyone can pull off that shirt, you can, brother.
Oh, my friends, so good to be back. Oh yeah. Yeah, man. Latest place was Paris. Shout out the Parisians, man. I went back for a second time and I had a much better time.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I actually got to enjoy the nightlife. So, I've changed my tune. No, it's great to be here, man. Thank you. For some of you who may be wondering, Love Island is still on ITV2. This isn't Love Island. This is strictly Liverpool. But while we're here, if everybody in this chat can give us a nice rating for this shirt out of 10, I'm going to bring on a different shirt every time I pop in every now and again. While we're
that's a good start. Can you rate his drip, guys? Can you rate his drip in the chat?
Yeah.
Before we get into the real serious stuff, can we get the real serious stuff out of the way and rate his drip out of 10?
I need to take this feedback back to the masses, so you'll be doing me a huge favor. Good to be back.
The first one you've got is 8. That's not bad at all.
That's a good shout.
And then you've got 97 out of 100, even though I said out of 10.
Man, this rating, that's a big hey.
My God, we've got a new member in the chat, Dinesh. Welcome to the Grizz Khan Ultra Member Club. Thank you very much for joining, brother. You're very welcome. You got a 10, man. 7, yeah. It's dropping. But we'll keep an eye on those ratings. People, don't forget to like the stream. It helps with the algorithms. We're trying to set up a nice community. We're not trying to, we've set up a wonderful community where we like to think we can get together every other night, sometimes every night in my case, have a little chat about all things football. Not necessarily only Liverpool, but majority of the time Liverpool. And tonight's no different, guys. Tonight's no different. We had a little chat on social media, Twitter today. I should say social media, but Twitter, and we put out a few suggestions of what the show could entail, and the feedback and the interaction went wild. It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing how certain topics get a lot of fans really emotional and passionate, and I love that. This game is all about being passionate, having different opinions. But one thing that I try to do, and it's very hard, I fail miserably as well. But what I try to do is remain civil about it, a bit of humor about it, a bit of lightheartedness to it, and not get too emotional and get angry and start blocking people, whatever, until you get personal, until it gets abusive. But one place where we can have all those kind of conversations is on here, lads. And I've said it before, this is what we're about. We're just everyday fans getting together and having a little chat about things that's relevant right now in the Liverpool circles. So we're going to get into all that, but I want to start off with obviously the official announcement of our third signing of the window. Believe it or not, we have actually signed 3 players. You wouldn't have thought so, according to some. But we've signed 3 players, and of course, there's no better person to start than Conroy. Conroy, 18-year-old right back, Calvin Ramsay, signed on the official dotted line. All the pictures, everything's in. I feel good about this kid. How do you feel about this kid?
Yeah, no, I think it will be a good signing. Actually, ironically, because I was talking about this earlier, I was talking about the SPFL, and I was saying I do think that some teams actually do miss out in quite a lot of bargains from that league. And you've seen it in the past. But firstly, on Liverpool, it's not a carbon copy, but you look at Andrew Robertson's, the way he's developed. He actually just played 1 season in the SPFL with Dundee United, got Young Player of the Year. That was a very good Dundee United team. It had Stuart Armstrong and Ryan Gold and John Suter, who now plays for Scotland, in it. And you could see that Calvin Ramsay had a similar season, maybe not to that level, but still very impressive for such a young player. And bombing down the line as well, and with his set piece ability, which we could always do help with and increase our numbers if possible, and just his overall wide play. I feel like it's a very good acquisition. It's someone who can come in, and you're playing literally behind one of the best right backs in the world, if not the best. So for either to offer an alternative option or to learn from Trent, if he can add the passing ability and improve his crossing through that, I think it's a great signing for us, to be honest. And it's one that I know we're going to talk about this later, Grizz, but our model, we would look at someone like that as say, right, 6 million from a league like that, get the deal done, could potentially be a bargain, to be honest. If he can play the amount of competitions we're in, if he can be part of that, it could look like a bargain. To me, it does fall into, not to be obvious and cliche, it does fall into the Robertson purchase. At the time, people weren't really expecting much. I probably would say underwhelmed, because I don't even think there was probably more social media from this one. It was just a kind of clip video of him joining. And I think with Ramsay, I think it falls in that category. I think he can be really massive for us. And I think it's one of them, we always talk about, how do you get a right back in for Liverpool? Because you're going to have someone who's happy to be second choice behind Trent. I feel like when you get a young player like that, it helps, because he just wants to learn, and he'll be absolutely happy just to be part of the squad and be competing for trophies. So I think it's a great signing. I know we kind of knew it was done, but I just think, yeah, this kid's got a lot of potential. For him to be that effective in a game for such a young age in a physical league. It is a physical league. Like, you can talk about English players and standard. Of course, the Premier League is a better standard, but there's a lot of players who came from that league who are sink or swim, and they've sunk in the league. They couldn't cope with it. So I think having that physical ability to battle in games also adds to how he can be effective for our team, because the amount of games Klopp wants you to give everything, I think he'll suit us perfectly.
Yeah, look, you make a good point. Well, you make a few good points, but you're right. It's it's one of the most hardest positions, isn't it, Steve? We talk about in terms of a replacement for the best fullback in the world, one of the most unique fullbacks in the world, Trent. The way he plays for us. This guy's got a hell of a job, but I like him. I like his attitude so far. I like everything that I've read and seen from speaking to supporters of Aberdeen tell us that he's a very confident kid. He loves playing football, and he loves playing the way Trent plays. I didn't actually know he's a boyhood Liverpool fan. He's actually a boyhood Liverpool fan, and I always love that. Don't ask me. No, you can ask me why, but it's natural when you have an affection and a love for a team, and you actually get to join them. That drive, that determination is always twofold. So I think this bodes well. I like, as I said, I like what I've heard about him. Listening to him today, again, he speaks a very good game for a young man. I know he turns 19 by the time we play the first game against Man City in the Charity Shield, apparently. But everything about this suggests it's another great behind-the-scenes move from Liverpool, sort of, what's the word, future-proofing.
Yeah, it's kind of selling the impossible dream as well, because you're bringing in a player to play in a position where we've got the best. So how do you oust him? But then you look across the other side of the pitch, and Tsimikas is quite happy, or appears to be quite happy with what he's got at the moment. So this guy can fit into our squad. This guy can fit into our style of play, or he wouldn't be here. The player profiling that we do would have covered all of those bases, and he would be an exact fit for what we want to achieve. Outside of the obvious trends in him comparison, it allows us to do what we need to do with Nico Williams. That means he can move with our grace, and we can recover some money for him. Also means Van der Berg was likely to go out on loan again. We spoke about this some weeks ago. We thought we might keep him, but there's no real need to now. And some of the other young lads might get out and experience a bit of league football as well. So it's a brilliant acquisition for the football club. It sounds mad to say we might see a little bit less of Trent. And when I say that, not playing 50+ games a season will do him the world of good. And we might see a little bit of a return to slightly weaker sides in the domestic competitions, because there is a question whether they tripped us up in terms of all the games that everybody played, and did we burn out towards the end of the season to some degree. So I agree with you, Grizz speaks really well. He looks a bit of a unit as well. So physically, I think he'll
noticed that, Steve. I noticed that about him as well. Yeah, you're right.
And I saw a left-footed strike he scored. Brilliant goal that was. So it's shopping well rather than looking in the bargain basement. That's not fair on the lad. It's doing your homework. Probably been watching him for a while now. Got the deal done. Get him in. Get him settled into the football club. Give him some games pre-season. It gives you the option in some games to try different things with Trent. Do you push him forward a little bit? Try a different shape? The permutations are immense, bringing players like this to the football club, and there's no immediate concerns that he's going to get itchy feet and want to play first team football week in, week out. So whilst it is as it is, that's brilliant for the football club.
The five sub rule as well, guys. On the five sub rule, like obviously,
Totally.
if it's 70 minutes and we're winning 3-0, Klopp would be encouraged to take Trent off then. So I think that adds to the pot as well. Sorry,
great
Chris.
shout. Great, that's a great shout.
No, it's true. Keith, Level Scouser just reminds us he's 5'10". I like that. He's 5'10" and he's still growing. He's got a long way to reach your 6'10", but he's on the right track. He's on the right track. Connor Bradley, another great prospect. Nico Williams obviously went and smashed it on loan, and will probably want to move on and get that, because he's at that age and he's got the taste of international football and regular football. He's at that age. Nico Williams is about 22 people, something like that. Around that. He's at that age where he'll want to play regular football, whereas Ramsay is coming in at 18, knows what's ahead of him, because he's a Liverpool fan. He's been watching this team all his life, and he will have ambitions of a long-term stay. And we've rewarded him with a 5-year deal. I think that's significant as well, Keith. A 5-year deal suggests that he'll be 23 by the end of that, and he'll definitely know where he is in the pecking order by then. I think this is a class move. Again, I'm not just saying it for the sake of it, but you can see this guy filling out, right? And you can see him being mobile and active. I love the way he strikes the ball. I don't know if you've been watching clips of him, but for me, I'd like to think that even on YouTube, you can get a pretty good gauge of a player technically. Obviously, off the ball movement, you need to watch him live and everything and his positioning. But I love a player that can strike a ball cleanly. Now that sounds so simplistic, but from our fullback, that's so useful to know.
Well, you need to when you're striking them with the kind of technique and pingers that Trent Alexander-Arnold is. You know, we all know that taking Trent out of this team leaves a gaping hole creatively. So, you know, Conor Bradley, unfortunately, only quite stepped up to the mark. I think he had maybe 1 or 2 games where that bit of extra lack of playing top league football started to impact his usefulness in that position. I think with Ramsay, you're getting a player who has actually played amongst men in First League.
The Scottish Premier League, yeah.
The Scottish Premier League, you know, he has that ability, and it's a very FSG signing for a position that's ultimately probably one of the most coveted in world football today. Exciting to see what he brings, because he definitely brings a little bit of the unknown. It's almost a carbon copy of the Andy Robertson situation, where you kind of didn't know what you were going to get, and then all of a sudden this kid exploded. I hope the same thing happens for him. Low risk, high rewards for Liverpool in this situation. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you can't argue much more than that. But the way Liverpool approach transfer business has been in this style for some time. They've been slyly going around and nicking everybody's youngsters, and it's going to be really interesting to see long term if FSG are proved correct. If the real value in the market is not giving a player paying 45 million pounds for another right back and paying him the same as Trent Alexander-Arnold, and it's actually picking up the next best thing, and that the next best thing comes to fruition as quickly as we think they will. So this is right up there with the 10 commandments of the FSG rule, and we'll see whether they're once again proven right or not.
It's true, and you know, no one can predict how it's actually going to go. You can have a rough idea, and it seems to me like sort of with the purchases of Harvey Elliott, Fabio Carvalho, Cade Gordon,
yeah.
There's a few that we're kind of nicked almost. From
tribunals. Like I didn't know how many times you can go to a tribunal for players until Liverpool started seemingly shopping. Reminds me of Chelsea almost, except Chelsea did it in a wild way.
But it's true. Think about it. Harvey Elliott, how much was he, lad? 7 million or something, was it?
Yeah.
Something, Harvey Elliott. And like, if he was playing for a Dortmund or anything, we'd be clamoring all over. Let's get him 15 million from Dortmund. Wonder kid. This is the future, you know. Same with Fabio Carvalho. Every Fulham fan that I've managed to speak to, because there's quite a few of them now because they're in the Premier League, and so I look for Fulham content creators that we're going to start doing work with when it comes to playing them, whatever. And they said we're absolutely crying our eyes out in terms of you've got him for 5 million. It's a travesty. Like, he's a 20 million kid, literally a 20 million kid. Sorry, go on, Conor. You was going to say something.
No, I was saying, I was listening to something earlier actually, and I actually do think with that, I think that's a great shout. I think it's kind of reminiscent to Dortmund, and Dortmund. I actually think the biggest statement you could say for Dortmund, the way they look at young players and take a chance on them and give them a platform, is we might not give them straight away game time. I'm not saying that. But if you look at Jude Bellingham, when they signed him from Birmingham, people were laughing, like Birmingham framing the shirt and stuff and thinking 25 million, this is a bit ridiculous for a championship player.
Great point. Yeah.
And now it's like, I don't see any of those people coming out and saying, I got that completely wrong. So I do think like Dortmund have done it for years. Obviously we adapted it a little bit, but I think we'll spend like 7 million on a young star, but we think he could be game changer. And Chris, how you just seem to be absolutely struck on Carvalho, that he falls into that mold, and it's like basically getting there before. You know, Bellingham now it's 80 million, but they actually got him for 25, and whatever happens, they're going to make a hell of a profit. I feel like we've got a little bit, I'm more than a little bit into our kind of strategy now, and I think Cade Gordon falls into that as well. I feel like honestly,
Oh, yeah.
We'll see in the next couple of years, but I think that's a very good adaptation. Sorry, Keith, on you go, mate.
No, Kay Gordon was the tribunal as well, wasn't it? Wasn't
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So is Danny Ings, but that was not. I just wanted to add in that fell. That was a bit later.
But and again, PA 93 reminds us Ben Doak as well.
Oh, yeah, great.
I'm telling you, another little gem of a bowler. I'm telling you, but of course, sometimes people will start using that stick to bash, like we're kind of penny pinching or whatever. But this is great planning. Conroy made a smashing point when we all read about Jude Bellingham and Birmingham, like, you know, people were taking the piss out of Birmingham.
They were
like,
it was
they were absolutely
and all that. Yeah.
retired the shirt and hey, look who's laughing now, huh? Jude Bellingham.
They've got a sale on. They've got a sale on when he gets sold for 100 million.
Jude Bellingham has single-handedly caused world war on the LFC Twitter sphere. So imagine, you know, getting him in early, like we're trying to do with his brother. By the way, this is exactly the reason why we're trying to get into his brother very, very early, because we know he's going to be probably as big a star, if not bigger than Jude. So I think we're doing great work off the scene. But obviously we need to speak about all things current as well. It's very important we do, because people love talking about the present and the future. People don't like talking about what you've done and the achievements or the groundwork or the foundation for some reason. But it's just as vital and important. I promised myself, Conroy, that I'm too old now, I'm too mature, I'm too mentally strong to get embroiled in being sad when legends leave my club. Transfers happen, players come, players go. I reserved a lot of tears for Jurgen Klopp, and I think to a man, woman, dog, cat, owl, parrot, tortoise, we have all reserved tears for Jurgen Klopp. But in terms of players, after Steven Gerrard, I thought that's about it, really. Anyone else comes and goes, thank you, I love you, and all that business. But this week, as you know, I've been very, very down and somber. I wouldn't say down, sad, because I don't be down when I'm supporting Liverpool Football Club. It's a pleasure. It's a magnificent pleasure. But I've been a bit down, sad, I should say, that the story of Sadio Mane has come to an end at Liverpool Football Club. But I'm just about getting, when I say over it, you know what I mean? Like, I'm looking to the future now, and I'm so excited. But Sadio Mane, the man, the legend, the icon, I'll say it again, and then I'll let you guys have your say. For me, my favorite player in the Jurgen Klopp era, and it's an absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure seeing him play in the mighty red of Liverpool. A man who's dedicated blood, sweat, tears for 6 years for this club, won it all, came in smiling and left smiling. Obviously not in the parade. Even in the parade, he was smiling, I beg your pardon. But smiling. And his face, that smile will forever live in my memory. That's me out of the way.
Yeah, no, I think it's a hard one, because I feel like Mane is just, probably whatever we do, we'll find a way to work around it. But he's just been so. I wrote something down earlier. I wanted to say, you know, he's always been brilliant. For a long time, he was brilliant. But even when he was kind of not declining, but he had a poor form at the start of the season, I've never seen a player who's still so effective when they're not playing well. Like, we still get 11 goals or whatever at that point, 8 goals. And it's just like, he's actually not playing very well, but he's still contributing and actually having an effect on the game. I just feel like, to me, he is... when I think of the Klopp era, a lot of people jump the Firmino thing, and that's fair enough. I get that. But for me, I actually think of right wing Sadio Mane. Like that, it gets forgotten about a lot. I thought he was absolutely electric there. And to me, I know we're going to speak each, and I'm not going to steal anyone's goals or anything like that, but I always remember the Leicester game, 4-1, where Lallana scored that absolute screamer, like top corner. I remember watching Mane link up with Sturridge, and I just thought, this guy is just like, looks quicker than everybody, looks like he's just sharper on it. They can't live with him. And to me, he was just so consistent for a long time, up until, the last couple of years where there's been ups and downs. But for me, just I tweeted this earlier. We use the term legend far too often in football. Like, it is ridiculous how often we use it, right? But he is a man who is more than deserving of it. He's not just a Liverpool legend, he's a Premier League legend. And it's actually really a really sad one. I'm the same, Grizz. Gerrard, from me, when he left, like, I was gone that day. That really, really got to me. I'm not saying it's to that level, but I'd say if anyone's going to push it, Mane leaving's a really, really hard one, because in my head, we've got back on our perch and he's been vital to that. So there's not many really better words I can say. He's an absolute legend. And the thing that annoys me is, for me, it's all the best. Go and enjoy yourself. Go and enjoy the rest of your career. And you know what? Get your bag. Like, genuinely, like, we need to stop thinking like he's thinking about, oh, I'm sure he does love Liverpool, but he's got his family to think about as well. This is a career at the end of the day. And he's got probably one last big move in him. Wish him all the best. And obviously, we'll keep an eye on the German League and hopefully wins the title there as well.
Nick's adamant to tell everyone in the chat that I can't be upset because I wanted him to get rid of him. He says, if anybody's been following or watching our shows, that's a bit harsh way of putting it. I always, and I maintain that we had the best years of Sadio Mane, the absolute peak of Sadio Mane. And what I suggested at the time was we will never see that Sadio Mane again. And I share that opinion. Doesn't mean I can't be upset when it's dawned on me that he's actually gone, because he's an absolute legend and an icon for me. So the two things can coexist, Nick T. But look, there you go. Because you've been saying it about 5-6 times in the chat, I thought I'd bring it up and really get you some clout. How's that, son? Steve, Sadio Mane, over to you.
He is a legend, and I agree with Conroy that word's used far too much. And I agree, secondary, he's not just a Liverpool legend, he's a Premier League legend. In 5 years' time, when they sit down and do a best team in the Premier League, Sadio Mane's in the conversation across more than one position, potentially right and left side of the front line. There comes a point in everybody's career when it's time to move on. It happens in every walk of life to every single person who walks the earth. And it's Sadio's time to move on. And yeah, sad, Sadio. I can see why he was sad, because I've been sad too. First 3 letters of his name and all that stuff. He's been absolutely tremendous for us. And he does embody what Klopp's brought to the club in terms of that fight and that spirit and that desire to win. And heavy metal football totally was Sadio, wasn't it, when we did that? So that chapter's over now for Sadio at Liverpool Football Club, and we'll always be able to turn the pages back and look at it, and we'll remember him with a smile on our faces because of what he achieved. He's got a new challenge in a new country with a new league, and we brought a young lad in, or 2 young lads in to help fill the spaces in the front line, and it's their new chapters. So without being sort of cynical about it, when he's gone, we'll remember him fondly and we'll smile and we'll always recall him. But it's now time to get behind the evolution of the front line. And Sadio's been absolutely tremendous, and I wish him nothing but success, except in the Champions League, of course, because we want that. But now is the time to turn our attention to what we're going to do next. And when you're a successful side, and I saw this when I first started supporting the football club, and Graham Souness left, and that was the first one that did me in. This happens. Kenny Dalglish retired. Steven Gerrard moved on. John Barnes retired. We get over these things, but we remember these guys with fondness, with happy memories, and they become the fabric of our football club. So all that remains for us to do is to say thanks to Sadio for everything he did. Like Conroy says, it's a big contract. It's a lot of money. He can go and build schools and hospitals and be ambassadorial in Senegal. And I'm all for that. Well done for getting what you wanted in terms of a contract. Thank you for everything you did. You go with our hearts and come back anytime and visit. But now we do have to look to the future.
No, you're spot on. You're spot on. I'm just being a softie. And you've made me actually see sense, Steve. Thank you for that. I needed that. Because, I was finding myself a bit soppy this week. And it's not like me, but it just shows you the levels of this man that, he showed me. And someone's Pixelated Pigeon, Keith. He says Mane is to this generation what John Barnes was to previous generations, in his opinion. I don't think that's a far-fetched opinion. I genuinely think I will tell my kids that Sadio Mane was an absolute sensational footballer on that left wing for Liverpool, and right wing. We forget, and in his last season through the middle. I just think that's not, people often look at these shouts and say, "Oh, don't be comparing him to the legends of the past." Well, sometimes you have to accept there will be legends that reach those legendary levels of the likes of Barnes, Dalglish, Souness, and some of these in our squad, in my humble opinion, can be spoken of on that level. I think Sadio Mane can be as well, for me anyway.
Yeah, you don't strike fear into the commentators, into the players, into your own peers season in, season out if you don't go down as one of the greatest forwards in Premier League history. I think people are really these days using the trophy argument, a bit like I'm sure how Liverpool fans probably once upon a time used the "we won it 18 times, we won the league titles more than back in the day when United were on their perch." I think that always happens, and to disregard Sadio Mane is to blind yourself to the realities of what you were living through as a rival fan, especially Arsenal fans. And yeah, definitely Man United fans have had to live through Sadio Mane. Chelsea fans will definitely remember Sadio Mane coming up and taking the Super Cup away from them. City fans will know Sadio Mane as recently as their last trip to Wembley. That is how significant Sadio Mane was. He did it in significant situations at big times, big moments. He could tip top bins and a curler like an iron Robin. He could, get in between headers and score goals with his head, like almost like an Alan Shearer. Great header,
brave.
For a man of his size. He had literally all the attributes to be perfect for the he was truly a Premier League modern day winger. He had everything, absolutely everything. To lose him the way we're losing him is a bit of a shame, to be honest, because it's interesting to see what FSG's problem is with people at the age of 30 plus. What is your beef, FSG? It seems like as soon as someone hits 30, that's it. Done. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think I'm 32. You might as well start taking me to the home now.
It's like Chelsea. It's like Chelsea a couple of years ago, wasn't it? They would not give anyone who's over 30 over a 2-year deal or 3 something like that. Yeah.
Do you know what it is? It's sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go for it.
These guys are negotiating, and Wijnaldum did the same thing: 3/4 year deals. And it's not about paying someone 150 grand at 31. It's about paying someone 150 grand at 34 when you don't know what you're going to get from them in 3 years' time, because footballers obviously decline as they get older. So we've been caught with this before. When Dalglish babysat after Hodgson, his first remit was reduce the wage bill. We had a 33-year-old Dirk Kuyt on an absolute king's ransom. We've been done with this before. So you need to be very, very careful how much you get from these players for what you pay for them. The obvious solution with the Wijnaldum situation for me would have been give him 2 years with an option for a third, and that's the club's decision. But by all accounts, the kind of money that Mo and Sadio are looking for is not something the club's going to go to. So you're right, it's a difficult, horrible situation, isn't it?
It is that. It's definitely an argument to be made in terms of Liverpool. It always seems to be on the negotiation table, where we seem to be. I look back as Emre Can, same situation. He left. FSG are quite comfortable to let someone of Man, and with Mane, it's not just necessarily the goals or the flexibility in position, but it's also the availability, which I think is probably the best thing about Sadio. Sadio's always been there. He's always been available. He's always been, even out of the front three, like he came in with second after Firmino, but he was always there and he was always willing to play in so many different positions. What Bayern Munich got, I think, is a bargain, an absolute bargain. To get a player like that who's so comfortable playing in any part of the front three and will do that job to the best of his ability, like that for me, they've got an absolute bargain. But there's one other thing I'll say about Sadio, the whole situation in terms of the way we've lost him. at least it be a situation where all parties concerned can shake hands and start a new life. You know, it's never nice to be a club where you have a player like this and the team comes in and swoops down for him after 2 years. Do you know what I mean? Puts 100, 150 million. Like, you know, someone like Sadio Mane, if Liverpool weren't at the great heights that they were, and they were somewhere in a similar situation to Man United, Mane would have gone a couple of seasons ago. He would have got snapped up by one of the big boys for a lot more money. Do you know what I mean? So to lose him in such, you know, in such a way is almost, it's nice. It maintains our position in modern football at the moment as one of the top, well, arguably top 5 clubs in the world. And it maintains his value as well.
Keith, I'd argue, and I don't know what you guys think. I'd argue it's the perfect transfer story for all parties involved. So at the time, he came from, was it France or Austria? No, he came from Austria, didn't he?
Yeah, Austria, yeah.
He comes from Austria and does his time at Southampton in order to get a big club move.
Yep.
He performs at Southampton and he gets that big boy move to Liverpool. We buy him for circa about 32 million, right? And few raised eyebrows, but this is the early days of FSG where they were still finding their feet in terms of how to buy that gem. So it could have gone either way. Like we're going to come on to speak to the current forwards that we've invested in. But hold that thought for a second. They purchased Sadio Mane for 32 million, as I said, roughly. He gets his move to Liverpool, stays at Liverpool for 6 years, fulfilling his contract to the best of his ability, low maintenance, never a bother. The odd little strop that's blown up by media, but which fucking player doesn't have that? When you're good, you have a strop because you're good. You don't want to be taken off, or when you feel like as though a pass has not come your way. 6 years of loyal service, 6 years of winning everything there is to win. £32 million. And then what happens? At the end of that contract, no big hoo-ha, despite the media trying its best to make it toxic. Oh, he's saying this, he's saying that, he's saying this, mistranslation, press conferences being taken out of context, cultural context. Remember, the people of Senegal will know how he meant it, what tone he said it in. What happens? He says very early in negotiations, I won't be extending people at Liverpool. Thank you very much for your effort and time. And we said, thank you very much for your time and effort. And we managed to get 35 million for him. So after all that, after all the success, we've seen the best of him. And I'll maintain we've seen the best of him. Even though he was wonderful in the last couple of months, we know Sadio Mane was past his best, in my humble opinion. But we can argue about that, no problem. But for me, he was past his best, at his extreme best, the level best, and we still made a profit on him. Bayern Munich happy because they gave us Thiago only a couple of seasons ago at a discount price. We keep the negotiations happy. All parties. Sadio's very happy that we've not made a big fuss and hoo-ha and demanded 45 million and stuck to it. Got Messi, taken him to pre-season until our valuation is met. We're not letting you go. Everyone is smiling and happy, apart from Grizz, obviously. He's very sad this week. But you get what I mean? I think as far as football transfers go in the modern game, that's as well and great a story as it goes, Conrad. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to probably keep a good relationship with Bayern Munich as well. A lot of Liverpool fans this week were talking about, Bayern Munich's antics, but we did get Thiago for 25 million there, so I feel like that shouldn't be forgotten about. I think future Grizz, we've hinted at it a few times, there's nothing concrete, but there might be a few signings in the future Liverpool want to use with a club like Bayern Munich, so I don't think it's the worst to burn bridges there. What I would say, I do agree, Grizz. I would say at his extreme best, he's had some turnaround this year, though, I've got to be honest. The only thing, what I would say is what I kept saying, Mane's effective. So seeing the Champions League knockout stages, he's clutch, right? Gnabry could be on fire, but he might not be clutch in the Champions League. Lewandowski actually has been, but you know what I'm saying? He might have an off game. But you know with Mane is he could actually be having a poor first half, but he can step it up. Now, that is the one thing where you feel like Bayern Munich might be looking at that. I mean, what is Mane third in the knockout stages Champions League goals. Is that right?
Great point.
That's
So what you're
crazy.
saying is that they bought him more for Champions League.
To be the difference maker, if you know what I mean, in certain games, because Mane has got that ability where he could be having a terrible game, but he can switch it on. It doesn't really. It's like water off a duck's back with him. Whereas I feel like I understand that, and I feel like it'd be interesting to see how he gets on. Yeah, that's the one area I would say like maybe a little bit concerned, because look at Villarreal. We were awful first half, and then he round the keeper, calm as anything to make it 3-2. He's done it numerous times in the Champions League. That's the one thing I'd say Bayern Munich might be looking at it that way as well, because they've got enough forward line to win the league, but they might look at it that he might be the difference maker in some knockout ties. Like they just got knocked out by Villarreal. They might think, though, if he had a Mane or someone of that experience, that doesn't happen.
But look, enough of letting people know what Bayern have got, because that'll only make us feel worse. Connery,
Yeah.
don't go down that route.
I'm playing devil's advocate that you're about to, so that was all.
See, favorite memory, stroke goal. It could be a memory, it could be a goal, it could be a moment. What's it for you? There's so many to bloody choose from.
There are, you're quite right. I love the Jamie Carragher interview where Jamie Carragher tells him he loves him, and he looks a bit embarrassed and says, "I love you too."
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, in terms of the person, that really personifies the humbleness of the man. You want to look at footballing quality and ability. It's the way he pulls that ball down against Bayern Munich away, and stitches up the entire back four with a drop of a shoulder. Absolutely brilliant strike. So a very humble man. Technically very good, scored some very good goals. And I think he'll play through the centre when he goes there as well, because they're obviously going to lose their talisman. So, yeah, what a player, what a man.
That's a great choice, Steve. That pass, that move. And do you know what, Steve? I've just remembered another magnificent moment from there. Because in the previous game, in the first leg, do you remember Kimmich gave him a rough time in one tackle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just smiled at him. Like, do you really think this is over? Yeah. Like, do you think just because you've kept a clean sheet, we ain't coming to your place? And that whole performance from Sadio Mane at Bayern Munich, and culminating in that goal, it's just ice cold Sadio Mane. I mean, that was great point.
Before you move on, just want to just drop back a sec. And we talked about how he dropped out of form. Mane's lack of form coincided with our lack of a system and the loss of Gini Wijnaldum on that left-hand side, because that was a triangle, sometimes four, with Robbo, Gini himself, and Bobby Firmino coming in to be an option. Take Gini Wijnaldum out the side, and the left-hand side of that team essentially collapsed, all the injuries. He was trying to do it all himself. And one thing I would say, I think it's a fair representation of what we saw, is when you try too hard, it looks absolutely terrible. And I think for a year, Sadio Mane was trying too hard.
That's great.
Fair enough. Keith, your favorite moment?
Has to be on
goal, name, anything.
Yeah, for me, I think moment and goal was just getting to witness his performance in full flow at home to Watford when we beat them 5-1. I went up there and sat in the stands in the chilly breeze, the beautiful lights bouncing off the green, and Sadio Mane just, creating dreams. I mean, that second goal, that back heel is one of the greatest Premier League goals of all time. Every single person has tried this in their life at some stage or another. The majority of us hit the keeper. There's two things that happen in this situation. A, it's the timing of the run, because Trent plays the pass and Watford try and step up like as if you're pressing down on FIFA. Like, there's a thing you can do on FIFA where like the AI pushes the defenders back. So Watford all go up at the same time, and Mane. So not only does Mane stay on side in the world of VAR, but then he almost takes that touchback, stretches his leg, positions himself, and then just chips it over the keeper. And to see that happen in real time was just astonishing. I've never seen anything like it. Even his header was something that Sir Les Ferdinand would have been proud of, his first goal. And his just general performance that day, he just absolutely tore Watford to shreds. And I think teams like Watford, teams like Bournemouth, teams like Crystal Palace, they're going to be happy to see the back of Sadio, because the only way you win Premier Leagues is when you beat the teams that you should beat. And players like Sadio Mane made sure that we beat the teams that we should beat almost every single time he was on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? Like he was their killer, and he was their killer. And this performance that I think it was 5-1 in the end.
Yeah,
I think sums that up for me.
I love about this goal, it wasn't just a normal back heel, was it? He actually got elevation on it.
Yeah, it's almost, he lobbed him with the back heel, which is
how did he do that?
It wasn't a Balotelli in pre-season, you know. It was a proper finish. It was outstanding.
He drilled the ball into the ground to get it to rise up. You know, when you strike a ball into the ground.
So it's something similar that I've seen Mesut Ozil do as well. Have you guys seen how Mesut Ozil does it as well?
Yeah. But I'm not sure he means that. I've only seen him score 2 of them, but people see it like it's his thing. I don't know, but I know what you mean, Grizz. He hits it.
Well, Ozil or Mane?
Ozil, because I've seen him do it twice.
No, Ozil talks about it.
No,
it's okay talking about it after you've scored the goal. But
he talks about hitting the ball on the thing first and then having it bounce over. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, because he scored against us in the 3-3 game when Mignolet sends him for a newspaper, you know, and he hits it into the ground. But yeah,
because this was Ben Foster, and he was a top keeper at the time. I know now he's become a bit of a YouTube celebrity, like Keith. But but back then he was a very good goalkeeper.
Cycling GK.
The cycling GK. But yeah, look, I think he was unplayable that season, Keith. I think that season he was literally, I'd say
the Norwich performance was it away when we scraped it through Sadio Mane.
Yeah, someone said that earlier, the goal that he scored against Norwich. People don't talk about it enough. And the man says the goal against
terrible in that game. We were terrible in that game.
And again,
on my phone in Westfield because I got dragged out shopping that day. But I really wanted to watch this game, so I remember sitting outside Primark in Westfield in Hammersmith and just watching that game. And Sadio Mane, when he scored that goal, people must think I was a madman because I just just yelped out. Like people were just like, "What the fuck?" That goal was so significant that season. I'll add that as a close second.
Do you know what? Jonos makes a point, right? And how many times did we speak about Sadio Mane's touch? And then suddenly he'd unleash the most venomous, powerful shot you can imagine to make up for that touch. Because before we had a chance to moan, oh, Sadio, bang! He had that uncanny skill, talent to just unleash a shot. Left foot, let's not forget his left foot strikes. Do you remember the Man City one forget the Man City one. I'll ask myself because I'm after Keith. My favorite moment, my favorite goal is straight away from the start. At Arsenal where he makes his debut and scores the most ridiculous goal where you don't think anything is happening. He gets the ball. I can't remember the player who plays it into his path. And then he just sets off. And then he just goes on a wild run. And he doesn't even take the shortcut, lads.
He takes the hard route.
He takes the hard route. He goes all the way round the outside, cuts inside on his left foot. And like I said, unleashes the most venomous left foot strike into the top corner. Look at that. What a picture.
Yeah.
What a picture. What a scene. And I just don't think that goal is talked about enough because that was his debut. Imagine these days the hype that would have got. The hype of being a new £30 million signing. It's the equivalent of Darwin Núñez scoring something similar for us at the first game of the season against, I don't know, Aston Villa away or whoever, Fulham away we got in it. So we'll be talking and raving about it forever and ever. That Sadio Mane moment for me was magical. And of course, the celebrations that ensued, like Jurgen Klopp on his back. Remember James Pearce tweeting scenes here where Sadio is riding on Jurgen Klopp's back. I mean, that was the announcing of announcements. Like Sadio Mane has arrived and he's here. Conroy, I don't know what your memory
that makes me
is.
sad actually, Grizz. This one makes me sad because I remember watching this thinking, I think he's maybe a bit too inconsistent for us. Like he has great games and then he's had games where he looks like he couldn't get a game like in the Premier League because he's that off it for Southampton. But to be honest, that goal just shut me right up. Like, it was actually, it doesn't get spoken about as like one of the best goals ever in the Premier League. Like, I'm not exaggerating. Like, him on the right wing doesn't get spoken about how good he was.
No.
Electric. He was
You're right.
actually electric. Now, you guys have all, the chat, some great shouts. The one I would say that gets forgotten about is his double against Spurs at Anfield, and they just couldn't handle him. I think he scores two goals, and they're not like amazing goals. If it's a header and then he smashes it, but it's just like that. It just, to me, that was Mane. Just could not handle him in the league, and I thought it was brilliant. Another one I would say, just to be a bit different as well, is do you remember the Southampton game? I think when with the title winning campaign, we're playing away from home, and we're not very good. Poor performance, I thought. Then Mane, in the 38th minute, just touches it and whips it top corner. A huge goal. And just for me, that was right up there. Along with the ones you have said, like, just there's so many goals. Just what a player.
So many goals, so many moments, so many memories. But as the wise man of the Red Fellas, Steve says, you know, we appreciate, we love, we thank, and we move on. And move on is what we've done, Steve. People talk about where do we go now with replacement. We're losing Sadio Mane, and people suggest that we've replaced him with a young, unproven striker. Steve, I've been arguing that we haven't replaced him with a young, unproven striker. We've replaced him with 3 attackers that we think will elevate this squad, this team, to at least the same level, if not a higher level. And that is Luis Diaz, Fabio Carvalho, and Darwin Núñez. It's time to look forward. It's time to replace, as you said. We're always looking to evolve. How's this? Are you worried? Are you worried that we could suffer the lack of Sadio Mane in this team, in this squad? We've just spoken about his clutch moments. We've just spoken about his 6 years of just sometimes pulling us out of the most fiercest fires. Is there anything that worries you about the future?
No. First of all, we would be right to say we will miss his moments, his clutch moments. We will miss the fact he scored 100 goals, 100 league goals in the time he's been with us, and that shouldn't be forgotten either. But in particular, Diaz and Núñez, you've bought 2 players who are completely fearless, don't have any concern about who they're playing against. Diaz hit the ground running in January. That's still a work in progress. That's only going to get better. Núñez's biggest game of his career, Anfield, last season, Champions League, and he turned up big time. This is a big-time footballer that recognises the games in front of him and the opportunities to go and show people what he's worth. We get a different dynamic with him because he can run the channels, he can play through the centre. He's more of an orthodox 9, if you like. He's also got the pace and the movement to play in the channels for a quick transition. So we gain a little bit in that regard. And then you can add Carvalho to the mix, who will come in off the left and do magical things. We've talked about the need to have a player that perhaps doesn't play quite as high as the other 3 and can link play. Well, he's got that in his locker too.
100%.
Is a possibility at some point in the future, depending on how his career goes, he could be a false 9. He's got enough about him to play as a false 9. Absolutely sees everything around him, and that's Bobby's biggest strength. So no, am I fearful of where we are? No, not at all. Is it evolution? Yes. Is it the right evolution? I'd like to think so. These 2 lads are quality footballers. It's kind of like Diaz, Núñez, Salah, and then when that doesn't work, we've got, I'm doing a disservice to Diogo Jota here, really, and I shouldn't be doing that because he can hold a torch to any of those guys. He's as good as anybody in the league. 20 goals last season proves that. So we're in a strong position. Let's remember when Suarez went, we went and bought Ricky Lambert, Mario Balotelli. So our evolution is of a different level these days. It's a positive thing for the football club. It's about the future. These things run their course and come to an end. I am more than happy with the players that we bought in our attacking side of the team. More than happy with these acquisitions. Diaz will be a guy that we talk about in the same way we speak about Salah in years to come because he really has got everything. He's just fearless, and he gets the ball out of his feet, creates space for shots. There's not many players with quicker feet than him. The way he engineers himself a yard and gets a shot off is tremendous. And there's times I'd like to see Mo Salah do that more often than not. So I'm not uncomfortable with where we are. These are great acquisitions for the football club, and tomorrow morning I will go and do my job, which isn't the manager of Liverpool Football Club. So that guy has my 100% trust in the choices he makes to bring into the football club, and he'll live and die by those choices. But right now, Grizz, I'm more than happy.
Keith, how are you feeling? Sadio Mane, we've just given him the tribute of tributes on this show, spoken about his clutch moments, his impact on games when he wasn't playing well. Do you agree with the notion that some have, that we're weaker because we've replaced him with an unknown quantity in Darwin Núñez? Is that a fair opinion to have? Or is that a fair worry to have? Or are they forgetting that we replaced Sadio months earlier with Luis Diaz and Carvalho, and that because what people are saying is if you take away Sadio Mane's moments and Origi's moments, and you're replacing with them three, the three named players I've mentioned, we're not any stronger. Which way do you see that?
So I can empathize. I'll go with sympathize with those that are fearful and those that are scared that, has an adequate replacement been made, and should we have been letting Sadio Mane go? What if it's not broke? Why don't fix it? Particularly as he wasn't exactly, over the hill and far away. You know what I mean? He was one of the, top centre forwards in the second half of the season, particularly. I think with Núñez, there is the element of the unknown, and I'm on this channel was saying that I thought he was a Morata regen. So talk about eating your words after all that. Do you know what I mean? So now I can't even sit here and say, Núñez is the best thing since sliced bread, because I've been recorded as saying that actually. And you know what? I haven't been able to talk about him since we signed. Well, not haven't been able to, but I haven't been around. I've been.
Go on, then.
You know what I mean? And
Keith, it could be Morata Juventus in the Champions League run. That was a good Morata, mate. Could be. It could be, mate.
That's exactly it. Like my point about him when I mentioned what I did was the fact that he's going to have to be a lot. So we're replacing Sadio Mane, who at his peak on the ball, his strength was unmatched. You know what I mean? He got a little bit loose with his touches towards the end of the season. I think with Núñez is going to have to hopefully learn really quickly that he's not going to win a lot of soft fouls in the Premier League, and just to stay on his feet. If he does that and stays on his feet and actually looks to be as combative as his fellow countryman and former Liverpool great Luis Suarez, and really bring the fights in with the size of him, anything is possible. He runs the line in an era of, always remember one thing, in an era of VAR, more and more teams are stepping just that little bit more forwards, right? Because more and more teams are understanding that actually we can compact the pitch a little bit more because there is VAR. That is why the era of Núñez and Haaland is going to be so interesting, because these two players are probably the best at catching you in that line. And with that quality comes a whole new dimension of way Liverpool are going to be playing football next season, which is another fear. This will be an evolution of what you know Liverpool to be. What you thought Liverpool was is no more, because this is the first time we are going to build a team around an actual real striker, an actual real number 9 for the first time since Jurgen Klopp's been through this door. And so will come the change of play. So from that perspective, I can understand people's anxiety because they haven't seen it yet. None of us have seen this new Liverpool yet, but it's coming. And Fabio Carvalho as well. I don't think he's going to be a player that's going to be for the bench. For me, this looks like a signing of a player that's going to be integrated into the team straight away. So again, you have that evolution that's took place last year, where you had 3 workhorse midfielders. Now you got 2 and 1. And how creative is that 8 going to be going into next season as well? So again, all of these system changes are going to be. It's going to be a different Liverpool that's going to come out. Whether it's going to be the right Liverpool, the wrong Liverpool, is going to be interesting to see. But can't say the club are sitting on their hands.
You can't. I don't know how you can say that from that aspect.
Right.
From the forward situation, we've just I think quite slyly, quite quietly, apart from the Darwin Núñez big splash, Jota, Diaz, Carvalho, and Núñez, 4 young, Carvalho being the youngest, 18, Núñez 22, and the others 25, have quietly managed to evolve a new strike force at Liverpool Football Club without too much fuss and bother. At the same time, Bobby and Salah are still there. People keep forgetting. So, to me, it's just my opinion. I don't think we're any weaker at all. From the strike point, you say something.
Right, so just one more point I was going to say. Slyly is the exact word, because every single purchase has been done on the sly. Yeah, so if you think about it, Jota was picked up on the sly. When you think about it, he came, slipped through in the summer. There was a hoo-ha about not signing X, Y, and Z, and he just came through, right? Then you had that was in the summer during the lockdowns. Then you had the whole situation with Carvalho, I believe it was, right? That started in terms of signing him. We ended up signing Carvalho when was it?
Well, we had a deal agreed in January, but we confirmed it in summer.
In summer. Diaz, same thing. Diaz and him came through at the same time, just slightly under the radar, and now Núñez by himself. It has been over, you don't have to argue, two and a half years. The rebuild's been happening, and it's been happening under our noses, because what happens is every time we've done a deal for one of these players, we're complaining about not doing deals for other players and focus more on that. But now all of a sudden we're sitting here, and the reality is the new era has begun.
The new era has begun because we tend to forget the rebuild that we've done at the back as well. Obviously culminating in today, Calvin Ramsay, a 19-year-old fullback, Tsimikas, the one that you're referring to, Keith, a couple of seasons ago.
Yep.
Konate last season. And we also have Joe Gomez, who's on the verge of signing a new deal. That's your back four, refreshed, young, and Jurgen Klopp believing them. Jurgen Klopp has enabled the front lads to be refreshed. Mo Salah's to be decided whether he extends, but he's definitely here for a year. Add to that the four forward stroke attackers, because Carvalho comes under an attacker. That's your front and that's your back refreshed, evolve, whatever you want to say. The big talking debate and point, Conroy, I'm going to come to you first, is the midfield area, where it's suggested that it's the one area where we haven't refreshed enough, where we haven't evolved, strengthened, all of those adjectives that you want to use. Because from what I can remember, and please tell me if I'm wrong, I may be wrong, Thiago is the only purchase that we've managed in that area in the last 3 seasons, maybe. What do you say to those people that we haven't strengthened there, and that is where we're going to be found short?
I think it's a tough one because it's publicised. We wanted Tchouaméni, right pronunciation. I think Evan will be happy with that. So I think it's a tough one. I'll be honest. I feel like we can get by. I would prefer we got one in, because I feel like it's looked maybe towards the end of the season we could have done with injection in there. However, it looks, to be honest, with the way it's going, if Ox is staying on for another 12 months, that's probably just going to be us. So I was a bit on the fence about that, but I've got to be honest, I do reminisce back to the Van Dijk and also Konate. You maybe say Konate when we waited for Konate in the summer. Liverpool looked at Tchouaméni, right, and obviously he's went to Madrid. We all kind of see it's well publicised that Bellingham's our target. And if they don't go this year, they probably will not get someone else in, and they will wait and they'll get him next year. Unless someone, like the Diaz situation, forces them to show their hand, they will wait. And we've done this in the past, and it has been effective. This is the target we want, and if we can get them, we'll get them. And we'll wait if we have to. I think we've got enough to get by. I just do think there's a little bit of a risk not having an injection in that area for us to keep going, because I do think that the competition for 4 competitions took a bit out of us. Obviously got a pre-season and we'll come back. I just feel that there's certain players in centre mid who I've liked, like Ox, but I just don't feel like it's working there. And that's the one thing I would be a bit of concern towards. However, I do believe that it's just a low risk. I think that squad can do it because we've seen it before. I think the only thing I'd say, Grizz, I don't know if you guys agree, just, the little knocks that Thiago and Fabinho picked up towards the end of the last half of the season, that's the one where I feel like you have to rely on Ox to come in. And that's the one here I think there's a bit of we could have done with a bit of injection there. However, the player we wanted wasn't available. We usually stick by what we want. Which, if we went out and get like a Singari, for example, you mentioned on the Colin show yesterday, Grizz, but that's not really. That's just what would you say? Just as a short-term solution, that's not really what we go by. We want to get someone who's there for the long haul, and that will be a Bellingham. So for me, I can understand why we're waiting.
Steve, Conroy understands why we possibly could be waiting, because first and foremost, it's the second week into the transfer window.
Yeah, we're a bit gun happy, aren't we? We think it's closing tomorrow.
Exactly. So look, first and foremost, it's not over. The transfer window is not over and it's not closed. I am of the opinion as well that I would like the central midfield area to be refreshed. I've been saying it for a year, possibly a year and a half. I'll hold my hand up and say it. I am now not going to come on my own channel and show and be a hypocrite and say I'm totally happy with us. If we don't reinforce, I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say, oh no, it's all good. Everything's fine. We'll be fine. We probably will be, because the people that know and deal with these things know more than me. But I can still have that opinion and say, no, we need to bring one in. I want you to explain to me, according to your opinion, who decides this? Is it the owners in conjunction with the guy's name, Julian Ward, and Mike Gordon, etc., and saying to Jurgen Klopp, you have a budget, either you buy a big central midfielder like we tried with Tchouaméni or Bellingham, or you buy a big striker to replace Mane, and then we base it on sales and see what we can do. And if that's the case, is that how we should be run? When do we take a risk in the market? Because there is a lot of clamor to take a risk and go beyond that and say, well, let's just take a risk and lash out. Of course, Bellingham was our first choice, despite what people think Bellingham wasn't. Tchouaméni, was our first choice. We were blown out of the water, and I think most would agree we shouldn't have succumbed to that kind of price and wage and whatever anyway, so we're fine. We're trying to get Bellingham if they're willing to work now, but if not, we're not willing to go to our third and fourth choice. So do you see where I'm going with the frustration from certain sections of the fan base? Which way do you see it? And who's to blame if there's a blame if we don't bring in someone?
I'm of the opinion that we needed to do something in midfield, and I felt like that for over 12 months. What I would say is stop sending messages to John Henry and to FSG, because Liverpool have a board of directors and they have a strategy that's handled by Liverpool Football Club. John Henry didn't sit down with Mo Salah and offer him his contract. That was done by Liverpool Football Club. So we need to get that one straight, first of all, because there's a lot of misguided hate towards John Henry and yachts and bits and pieces of Linda and stuff like that you keep reading about on Twitter. So it's a football club's decision, not FSG's decision, because we run our own accounts. That's a separate entity to FSG's, obviously. So with regards to the Bellingham situation, I understand why they wait. I also think if next week Real Madrid open negotiations to buy him, we will move. I don't think we sit by and watch that happen. So I think we're playing a bit of a waiting game with him. Short-term solutions, not keen on them. You go and spend £40 million on Singari and it doesn't work out for him. And then you go and spend £100 million on Bellingham next year. What do you do with the £40 million centre midfielder that you bought last summer to fill a stopgap for you because your fans melted down on Twitter? So they'll never react to what we say on Twitter or what Twitterverse says. It just won't do that. So there'll be a strategy that includes Jurgen Klopp, Julian Ward, the CEO, the analytical team. They'll have identified targets and they will wait until the right one comes in. If you don't do that and you go and buy players on perceived reputation and potential, you end up with what Manchester United have got, which is a pool of players that can't play together, can't be fitted into a system because they just don't have that diversity to say, I need you to do this. You build a system out of the players that you've got, and then you evolve it, you develop it, you add to it, and you end up with what Liverpool have got. Remember early days with Klopp when we talked about Mane being pivotal, we talked about Firmino being pivotal, and the signings, Lallana was pivotal too to what Klopp was trying to do. That takes years to evolve. You don't upset that apple cart by saying, right, we need one more. So we're going to spend £40 million now and we talked about this with Conroy before, on a potential successor in the 6th position, and we'll just sit him in the squad because we need a body. We will get by with what we've got. It is a risk. I do agree with Conroy that I don't think you can turn to Oxlade-Chamberlain when you need a replacement, and the Brighton game speaks volumes of that because we had no control over that midfield at all. They just bypassed our midfield completely, and we were lucky to get away with what we got away with in that game. So for me, it's a Liverpool decision between 4 or 5 different people. It's a wait for Bellingham, and if Real Madrid move, we move. We can't afford to watch that happen. And I don't think there's a knee-jerk reaction to spend the £40 million that you call the sweet spot on a player that comes into the club for 12 months as a stopgap. Unless in 12 months' time the club don't see a future for 2 of our current 3 in midfield. And that's too big a question to ask, and I don't have the answer to that. But it doesn't warrant a massive meltdown. It really doesn't.
There's a good Neverman is here. Glad to know you're here, Neverman. He says, good points. Why pay your experts to find talent if you are just going by the latest market trend? And I think, Keith, I want to come to you and ask you. You was very adamant, aggressive almost. It's the most aggressive I've ever seen you. I've never seen you're like the big friendly giant of the universe. But you was slightly forceful and adamant that the area, and you called this very early, I must admit, before anyone else that I speak to, you said, even though I was looking for a forward, you changed my mind and you said central midfield or around the midfield area is where we need to strengthen. How do you feel now that it's suggested in some quarters from reliable journalists via the club that we may not strengthen and we're willing to wait for the right target? A, do you agree with that? B, are you okay with it if it happens? And C, if it doesn't happen and we still fall short, and we feel short in terms of the quality is not there when we're asked to replace if Thiago gets injured and Fabinho gets injured, is there someone to blame? And is Jurgen Klopp absolved of all blame in this scenario, in your opinion, if that happens? I know there's a lot of ifs, but we're here to ask the ifs questions because it is about ifs. We don't know what's happening really.
Absolutely. To answer, no, I wasn't happy at all. No, I don't think. I think it's an area that is of the utmost importance. I think there's the whole situation with Darwin Núñez centre forward position, because of the fact that Sadio Mane decided to leave, kind of threw a bit of a spanner in the works insofar as if he would have just seen out his contract to the end and gave us the final season, then that I would have been like, beat Real Madrid's offer of 100 million, go 120 for Tchouaméni if you have to, offer him more if you have to. It is a specialist position. There's only one player that can really do it, and none of the other players can do it. And us as a football team, we kind of churn out certain games when we don't have Fabinho playing. But by and large, when Fabinho's either not playing or when Fabinho is unfit, so he's just come back from a knock, you see an overwhelming gaping hole in that position. Now, not only have we had almost a specialist for Fabinho's position, but now our system has created a new specialist for us for the system, which is Thiago. And we don't really have we don't have players that can play the Thiago role either, in my opinion, to play those two. So you've only got them two players who suffer from knocks, 2 players who have injuries because they're midfielders. Every midfielder has loads of knocks and injuries. It's the hardest position to play in football. But to say that we're going to wait until the summer and wait until winter, it is a very risky game. I can't take that back because losing one or the other, the likes of Keita, Jordan Henderson, James Milner, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, even Curtis Jones to an extent, all capable players. But unless you're going to change up the midfield and not rely on having two almost now sitting, before it was three kind of working for each other like in packs, but now you almost got two with one allowed to go join the front three. To only have two players who can really play that position well is a massive risk. And I know our club likes to take risks. John Henry, even though you're right what you say, Steve, John Henry is not part of what goes on at Liverpool Football Club. The philosophy of using the data and hedging your bets and taking risks is an ideology that probably came down from the big man himself in the first place and seeps right through us. And if you're on one side, you argue that, we should be making an aggressive bid to get Jude Bellingham and to sew this up once and for all, and really make Dortmund think about it, particularly on how well we've done as a football club over the last couple of years, revenue-wise. On the other hand, don't sleep on the World Cup, right? World Cup is going to change this season beyond imagine. I don't think people truly quantify the impact the World Cup is going to have on this season, right? So with the World Cup there and the risks that are being able to take, I almost say it's almost best to hedge your bets until January. If you're going to be a betting man, if you're that side, you're going to be a betting man. You're going to be patient. You've got a World Cup coming up, so you've got players that you never say a player is never going to give them all, right? Never, ever. I don't believe that. But even that tiny 0.5% will be in the back of players' minds to make sure that they play in a once in every 4 year tournament. So if you're hedging your risks and your bets, actually, it's better to see ourselves through, because it will be a season of two halves like never before. See ourselves through the first half with what we've got, and what we did get was, we won 13, drew 2, and lost 0 in the second half of the season, right? And then play it into January, and then by January you could have either had a player that's kind of emerged, gone to the World Cup, become a superstar, a midfielder, just blew him out the water and is ready to move, and identify somebody else, or the players that you were looking for. The World Cup's now gone. Now's an opportunity to strike. So that's if you're a patient betting man. But I just don't think that people in general. You touched on it earlier, Grizz, that in terms of like people, it's all about the now. Looking towards the future, even a year or two from now, seems so far-fetched. Everybody wants everything to happen now, which is completely understandable because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? We all understand that. But this philosophy, for what I believe to be a long-term way of doing business, has proven right in the end. Now we're 10 years into this project, and it's been proven to be right. So we've had this debate year after year after year after year. When we were buying Mane one season, then Salah the next season, then Van Dijk and Alisson one season, then Keita the other. Like, we've always spread. We've never really done like a big get it all sorted at once. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've never done it that way. And so from that side, I can understand it. Like, why they're going to wait. But it is a critical position. Now, even more so now, and that is the most critical position, in my opinion.
But is it, Conroy? Because Keith said, let's see what we've got until the World Cup, or the winter. What have we got? So what do we got? We've got Fabinho, Thiago, Henderson, probably our starters. Then we've got Keita, Elliott, Jones to step in, and currently we still have Milner and Ox. Am I right, guys? That's 8 players for 3 positions. What if I suggest to you that there's plans in place to play only 2 in midfield next season, and we're looking to evolve again like we have every season under Jurgen Klopp and Pep Linders, especially since Pep Linders has taken charge of first-team coaching, that we're looking to evolve into a more of a double pivot in midfield? Does that make you feel any calmer, or are you still of the opinion no, because there's certain combinations that won't work in midfield, even though we haven't got any data and proof as such? Because if suddenly we're playing two in midfield, and let's just say Ox goes, like it's looking very likely, that still leaves 7-4-2 positions if we're looking to play a different formation. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. Or are you still concerned about not the numbers, but the depth and the reliability?
Yeah, I think like you can play a two, but firstly they both have to be good at playing a two, and that's a hard position, especially when if I'm a manager, I'll just flood the midfield against you and see how you cope. And if that's not a Thiago Fabinho and you're not a good press resistant, then I don't know. Like literally, Liverpool best performance I've seen by opposition was Brighton, and they just flooded their midfield. So I'd have concerns on that, but I do get what you're saying. For me, I think it's all good saying we're going to evolve to this. And I think, but that's a process. You can't just click your fingers and it happens. And what happens when the process doesn't work in one game? You reverse back to type and you play a free. So for me, the worry I've got is like I think we're in a fortunate position because I personally believe Jordan Henderson is our backup DM. Full stop. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Not having anything. For me, that's it. Talk about DMs all you want. That's not it. He's proven numerous times he's great at stepping to be a DM. So he'll do that if Fabinho gets injured. That's why I feel like it's great because you just need to get another centre mid and then that they can just play in that position. And then it gives you options. I do get that, Grizz, but I just feel like a plan like that for a team who's played the same formation and it's the shape for so long, I just think it's I get what you're saying. 7 players, I get it, but I think playing two is quite a specific thing, and not every player can do that. So yes, you've got 7 players there, but they're not all adequate to play that. It's a hard one. It is a hard one. I just think like I actually am confident that for some crazy reason I'm not in the know like Grizz. I've not got any idea, but I can see us getting a midfielder. I can still see us getting a midfielder. I just think it's like the Diaz situation where we're keeping our cards close to our chest. But
No, sorry.
so yeah, sorry guys. For me, I still think it's a risk. We can get through it, yes. As I said, we can get through it. I just agree with Steve and Keith. I just think it's a risk because I could see Thiago picking up a knock quite early, and Fabinho for the past 6 months, he's had little knocks here and there, and he's missed games. And would you be confident going into like a two of Henderson and Milner and a two? I don't think that would happen. I think you'd have to still play a free, and then I don't know if we're controlling the game. But as I say, it's a risk. I'm not against it. I still think we've got good enough to get through it. I just think, as Keith said, there'll be some games that you just have to grind your teeth and get through.
Anything to add to that, Steve, with the suggestion that I've put out there, the cat amongst the pigeon that I've put out there in terms of formation change? Does that change anything in the strategy of our owners and Klopp to say, or is that still being not proactive? Like, why should we change formation? Do you get what I mean? It's like, are we changing formation because we can't get that extra midfielder in now? Or was that always part of the strategy and we're always looking to evolve and we'll still bide our time to get the right player for what we need? And that player was Tchouaméni or Bellingham. We're not willing to go to our third, fourth choices. Do you get what I'm going with this?
Yeah, I get you. I think we've been changing our shape for over 12 months now since we lost Ronaldo. Thiago's not played in the sort of more retention position. He's been the guy that's been asked to push on a little bit. We've almost had a double pivot. We had a double pivot of Fabinho and Thiago when we qualified for the Champions League with the 2 young lads at centre-back, to be fair.
Yep.
Of the 7 or 8 names that we've mentioned, only 3 can play in a 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Thiago would be stretched playing in a 2 because he's not great playing against a quick transition, running back towards his own goal. Yes, he can tackle, picks up a fair amount of cards, but when he joined the club, people say he didn't suit Liverpool's play. He did. He just didn't suit playing on the stretch. So when we get everybody back in and the usual suspects come back into the team, we start playing our system. We start playing the right bodies in the right places. Thiago comes to the fore and we get to sit there and go, wow, what a wonderful footballer, because he is. So we've only really got 3 players that can play in the 2 of the 7 names. So is it a 2.5? And what I mean by that is the body that sits in advance of those 2 will very, very quickly turn us into a 3 if we need to. So there's a big tactical discipline required in that position, whoever's going to be sort of an 8/10. Klopp alluded to it, start of last season when he selected Harvey Elliott in front of Jordan Henderson. We're 12 months behind on where Harvey Elliott should be. He should have had 30 games under his belt in the Premier League. He would be a totally different option right now had that happened. What's not to say Klopp's just going to do that again this season, because he obviously believes in the kid. He's got ability. We've talked on this show, and I've talked before with other people about his ability to reverse passes and see things that other midfielders don't. He's actually tries more short reverse balls than Thiago does, and we spend all of our time telling us how good Thiago is on the ball. But Thiago's more of a long distance passer. He's more of the guy that picks out the guy that can then create the assist, and he made a career of that at Bayern Munich. So no, it doesn't change anything for me, Grizz. I still would like to see one coming in, but I don't want to see someone coming in for the sake of somebody coming in to appease supporter unrest. It's got to be the right player in the right position, add something to the squad, add something to the system, and has a long-term future at the football club. I still stand by what I say. If Real Madrid pick up the phone next week and speak to Dortmund, so do we. So, and I agree with Conroy. I don't think that there's a possibility that's done for this season. I think that could still happen this summer. There's some well-respected and some not so well-respected people on Twitter saying, don't sleep on that because it could still happen this summer. It has to happen. If it happens, if he's available, we have to break the bank of Anfield to bring that guy in, because he's the closest thing to Steven Gerrard that there is out there that we could bring into our midfield, and he'd be in there for 10 years or so.
Guys, I want to raise this chat, and I want you guys to debunk it or agree with it, or however you feel. I can as well if you want me to, but I'll give you opportunities. Or Jono says, we talk up our scouting team, but apparently they could only find 2 midfielders in the world who could improve us. Try to make sense of that. Does anybody want to have a go on that?
I can make sense of that. One of them, Real Madrid, spent £100 million, despite the fact that they've got central midfield talent that most clubs could only dream of. So if Real Madrid had to do that to get what they wanted, clearly our scouts must have been on something. Like, they broke the bank. They've got Camavinga, they've got Cruz, they've got Modric, they've got Casemiro, they've got these players, and they you could argue that should we have been more aggressive in that situation. I would argue that maybe Tchouaméni's head was more turned to playing for Real Madrid anyway. But you never know. Money does talk. Sometimes it makes you think, if we were to really, in signing these new and upcoming players, if we were to be more aggressive on the market, would we get our first choice? In terms of the second choice central midfielder, well, if you look at it, for me, I've said it and I'll continue to say it. If you look at their age, their position, and what they've achieved so far in club football, which hasn't been winning trophies or anything like that, but in terms of stepping up in big situations, is Declan Rice. I've said it time and time again. Declan Rice has done what Tchouaméni's done for his club. Declan Rice has done for West Ham, and he's done it for England as well. And I think that type of player is, again, the type of player that is going to cost you north of 80 million quid just to get him away. And, he's West Ham's captain. So, again, would people be happy if the Liverpool went and spent that type of money on a player, especially as English players don't always go down very well on Twitter? Obviously, you've got Jude Bellingham. Dortmund have just sold their talisman for 60 million quid. They only tend to really make one big sell a season. So even if the opportunity to sign Bellingham, let me rephrase that. I don't think Dortmund are going to let Bellingham go on the same summer that they'll let someone like Haaland go. So again, you're waiting for another season for a midfielder like that to happen. The Basuma one was the most interesting situation because every club is looking for this player. Like, it's not just us. Manchester United are trying to build an entire new midfield, central midfield team. You got the likes of Chelsea that are looking to regenerate their midfield. You've got the likes of who else? Arsenal shipping around in this market. So a player like Basuma going for £25 million would have been the player on everybody's lips. Everybody in the chat right now, everybody on Twitter that's been talking about midfielders, Basuma was the name that popped up in everyone's head and has been talked about. Yet he went for £25 million. So then is there an ethics argument with FSG? Now we're not signing players based on certain characterizations, because that was funny. That slipped through the net for such a cheap price. So that's four already. That's four midfielders that we've either spoke about, that the scouts have found, or Twitter's been ablazing. And there are four genuine reasons why we couldn't get those type of midfielders. So after that, you're taking a calculated risk, and clearly at the moment in the
they're not
market,
prepared to.
yeah.
Clearly they're not. Probably it seems they're not prepared to. Sorry, go on, Steve.
Yeah.
I don't think Declan Rice is worth north of £80 million, personally speaking. I really don't. And if Liverpool went and spent £100 million on a player like that, there's a potential for that to ask more questions than we've got already, because I just don't see that figure for him.
You know the English tax, though, Steve. You know the English tax.
Of course, yeah. They'd be very quick to pick out that he's not good enough to have been a £100 million player if that arises. There will be a list of players that potentially could sit in that position, but are they better than what we've already got? Are they earmarked to take positions from the players we've already got? And it's not two players, is it? I mean, it's an interesting question, but it's kind of being a bit extreme to say they looked at world football and said there's only two. I don't think that's a realistic proposition to say that. There would be a number of players that we would look at. I suspect they've had a conversation about Declan Rice and had a look at what he does at West Ham and thought too expensive and maybe not what we're looking for. There's other players. There's Singari player we speak about, PSV. Conroy makes the point he's more of a DM, so he's a replacement for the sitting midfielder, as opposed to somebody who's going to be box to box and do some damage behind the front three that we spoke about at the start of the conversation. So it's really difficult because we don't buy for the sake of buying. We will wait for the right players, and our fan base really struggles with this. We waited for Van Dijk. We didn't go out and buy somebody else. We got Van Dijk. His importance and what he brought to the football club can never be measured because it's off the scale. We waited for a goalkeeper. We got Alisson. We got Alisson in. We brought forward Luis Diaz's transfer because we looked like we might lose him. We all said, is there a more Liverpool type footballer in world football right now than Luis Diaz? The club had seen it. Tottenham threatened to sign him. The club brought forward by 6 months their plans to sign him. They brought him in. We will buy the right players for the football club as and when we are ready to do them, and they won't be pressurised by a fan base, or they won't be pressurised by social media. They're doing it for the good of the football club, and if it's 12 months before we go to the table and negotiate for Bellingham, and if we do, and we don't get him, I'm going to deactivate Twitter because it will not be a nice place. It'd be absolutely insane.
I want to address this super chat. Appreciate as always the support, my brother. Selection in the building. He says, I think it's ludicrous to think that there's no one out there who could improve our midfield. The club just favours Bellingham. I think it's ludicrous. My opinion, I don't know about the other guys, I think it's ludicrous to think that there's only a handful of people, the ones that we've named. Keith went through about 3 or 4 guys that our club seemingly think can improve our midfield. But the decision maker who makes these decisions, who is looking to bring in a midfielder who is a game changer, not a squad player, because as we've gone through the squad in recent times, in terms of purchases, we always look to spend the big money on game changers. So we've bought the likes of Alisson that we spoke, game changer. Virgil van Dijk, game changer. We are now hoping Darwin Núñez at 85 million is our game changer. We are now looking to spend circa 80 million again on a central midfielder that we not only want as a squad player, we want as a game changer. And it's very difficult to just pick out a name because we think selection, not just you, me as well, and everyone else, just because we think that someone is better than what we already have, we have to accept it always, but just for ego purposes, sometimes accept that the people that are running the team don't think like us, don't scout like us, don't think player XYZ is better than a Naby Keita or a Jordan Henderson or the potential of a Carvalho, Elliott and Jones. Sometimes we have to accept Jurgen Klopp believes in them more than we believe in them. And that's the way football works and will always work. The people in charge will think completely different to us laymen. We may think, my God, we can go out there and get Tielemans, man. 25 million, bargain. We can get Paqueta, bargain. We can improve this. Just type the names in, put them in a formation. Wow, imagine those ratings added onto these ratings. But we're looking at it totally from a lame person's point of view. These people have experts and made a living out of them. And it's a simplistic way of saying it, but it's factual. It's factual. They know far more than us. They know far more in terms of how the business side of things, the economical side of things works. Also, we don't know the conversations that may have taken place. I suggested that we may have had assurances for Jude Bellingham and his family that when he moves, he will move to Liverpool. So we're not aware of these situations. And like Steve says, to go and spend 40, 50 million pounds just now to appease what we think is glaring holes in our squad makes zero sense, because A, I don't think they're glaring holes anyway, and B, the people that are in charge don't think like that, and we have to respect, the very least, respect that they know what they're talking about, right? Sorry, Conor, I know you wanted to jump in.
No, it's on what you said. I think that's a brilliant point about the game changer type of signing. I would also add that, see, something we've maybe looking at is a longevity signing. And for me, I think the reason is, I get selection saying, I think there's lots of players you could just pick out who would probably would improve the squad, and the team could offer a good effect. But when we're talking at like a Sadio Mane, as we said earlier, or a Bellingham, I've got two examples here. Didn't get Van Dijk. So say we just went and got Johnny Evans, or it's no disrespect. Koulibaly, yeah, because like Johnny Evans is a good defender, but you know what I'm saying? Someone who's like still a good defender, but look at the impact Virgil van Dijk's had in the team. If we'd got Jack Butland instead of waiting for Alisson, again, no disrespect, game changer, right? I feel like there's moments in a team's journey of moving or of evolution or whatever you want to say that are big moments. And I think this signing is a big signing. And I think to be fair with Jude, or if we did get Schumann, I think it's like, this is one you're paying the money for, but it's going to be an absolute bargain at the end, because they're going to play for you for maybe, a touch wood, you know how it goes, but could be 6 to 8 years, potentially 10 years. And I feel like this is such a big signing to keep us on our perch. That's why they know how important it is. And I just think it falls into that category. And that's your point. That's your point. The game changes.
I'm so sorry to jump in, but I want to jump in because in case I forget it. Because Conor, you make some brilliant points there, and it's true. Look at the expensive buys that we or the club have perceived as game changers, and how many of them have proven to be so. Sadio Mane was the game changer, and we've spoken about him. 35 or 30 million pound at the time was a lot of money. Mohamed Salah, 30 million, unknown. Well, not unknown, but not world class.
No one saw that coming, Chris. No one saw that coming.
35 million, but we saw him. We had visions of him elevating us and being a game changer, and I need I say more. Fabinho, 40 million out of the blue, because we perceived him as a game changer. So it's all right buying your Shakiris, your Taki Minaminos, who else? Squad players, right? That not are game changers. We buy them, we turn them over. Your Dominic Solankis, we buy them. The ones that we wait for or targets, not just Bellingham, it could be someone else. We don't know a name. Just because we're not hearing it on Twitter doesn't mean that they haven't got lists, guys. That's another thing. Just because we're not reading it on newspapers doesn't mean the scouts have only got 2 people and they're fucking smoking fags and looking like Keith in their spare time.
Just scouting in Italy.
These guys are working round the clock. These guys are working round the clock to find the perfect player for Jurgen Klopp. Yeah. We may not like it. We may not have the patience for it, but there's not a lot we can do apart from screaming to our TV screens and YouTube and cameras and laptops. We have to trust the process, but we're not trusting no fucking Arsenal process here. We're not trusting no Man United process here. We're not trusting no Chelsea process here. We're trusting a process that's elevated this club in the 6 years that Jurgen Klopp has been here. give or take a season or two, that's elevated us to be the only challengers to a state-run team in the world on any level. We're the only challengers doing it in the methods that we know how. We cannot compete on their methods. We have to formulate our own methods and way of working. And we've fucking done it. And we've proved that we match them in every way. How can people not accept and see this? We don't do willy-nilly. Just because we don't hear and see of players and names linked, we think, we only banking on them. That's just the way I look at it. Sorry, Steve, I know you wanted to jump in.
Wanted to cut in and say, if you go back through history and look at all the sides that were multiple winners of trophies and went on 5, 6, 7 year spells of domination with their own leagues, they didn't jettison players when they got to 31 years old. I'm going to remind us of a painful day. We just lost the European Cup final to a midfield that had 2 players well into their 30s in the heart of their midfield. There is no desire, there is no need, there is no prerequisite to bin players off at 31 years old. These players, the nucleus of the side stays together for years, and you add to it. So this incessant desire to replace Genie Wijnaldum, for instance, when that came about, this desire now to say Oxlade-Chamberlain's career's over. He might do 12 months and leave on a free. It depends what the club decides to do with him. There's no clamour to change bodies for the sake of changing bodies. Klopp might be happy to have Fabinho, Henderson, and Thiago in his midfield for the next 3 years. So we don't need to start writing them off at 31 years old. Yes, they pick up knocks, but as Keith quite rightly said, sitting in the centre midfield, which is the only combative part of football at the moment, because defenders can't tackle anymore. They're going to get bumps and knocks and bruises and strains and things. That we just don't need to be jumping them up on this bandwagon of, Jordan Henderson's approaching 32, get rid and bring in this player because he's 24 and he had a good season for Lille or something like that. Teams have tried the Renato Sanchez route and players like that, and it's not guaranteed to work. Sometimes it's better the devil you know until the right signing or the right person in the right position comes about.
I was on mute there. I've done a Keith special.
Yes, finally.
It's not in season. It doesn't count, Keith. It's not in season. That's the thing, mate.
Yeah, pre-season it didn't count.
I've seen a couple of people say, look, like, can anyone tell me which one of us is happy and content with coming second?
But I think,
I mean, and look, there's more. Look, there's more. Look, there's more. Look, check this one out.
I get it's frustrating. I do get
check this one out. Bill Shankly said there is only one winner and 19 losers. Bill freaking Shankly.
Yeah, Bill Shankly said a lot of things, mate.
I forgot that part.
Yeah, like at the end of the day,
probably hasn't got a clue about Bill Shankly's way of working and methodology and how to run the club.
Great to get a quote. Look, finishing second is bitter. It's painful. It's heartbreaking.
It hurts. Do you think Jurgen Klopp and the owners of our club are happy and content by finishing second in the league, runners up in the Champions League, and winning the other trophies? Of course, significantly. Just not even mention that.
So if that's the case, right, what you just said there, and you're right, totally right. Jurgen Klopp specifically says it, like, first is a champion, second is no, but he said it in quotes. So in terms of quotes, you can find Jurgen Klopp himself making these type of quotes. Why does he put pen to paper on a new deal? Jurgen Klopp, again, I don't think people understand the magnitude of having a manager like Jurgen Klopp being the manager of Liverpool. We have arguably one of the top 3 managers in world football today,
for sure,
managing a football club. So for him to sign up, he's not signing up to be second. Why would he? He's not signing a contract to be second.
He's an elite coach. He's one of the best coaches in world football. Sorry, Keith. Sorry.
Exactly that. Exactly. Best coach in world football, signs a new long-term deal, stays at the club, and you think that the man like him would say, no, actually, the club's only been built for not the club, but to the owners. But again,
look at this. Hold on. Just one thing. Jurgen Klopp has signed 3 times for this club, for these owners. 3 times. The first time, let's just assume how things work because we don't know the exact details. But let's just assume when you go for a job and the person that you're going to a job for explains to you how he fucking operates, because that's how I do it. I've run businesses all my life as well. And when people come to me, I said, all right, son or daughter, this is how I operate. I do this, I believe in this. You have this freedom, you'll have freedom to do this. This is you're not going to do this. You do. I lay down my rules and laws and way of working. Jurgen Klopp agreed with that at the start because that was the foundation start. People can argue we were in a different place then. Do we all agree that we were in a different place then? We weren't at the level we are now because that's levied. That's going to get thrown at us later on in the conversation. So let me address that. We were in a different place then. Then Jurgen Klopp, was it 2 years ago or 2.5, about 3 seasons ago, signs another extension when we're just on the verge of going to the elite level. Again, the owners must have sat him down because that's how life works, right? You go to your bosses and you say, what's my situation now? Have I got more money to play with? Have I got backing? Are you going to do this? Are you going to change your philosophy? Are you going to change your strategy? What is our strategy? He agreed with it. Oh, Jurgen Klopp, not Mikel Arteta or Graham Potter. Jurgen Norbert Klopp sat down and said, you know what? I love the way you work. I agree with all your philosophy and your strategy. I'm signing again another contract. Then he's taken us to the level where people are saying, yeah, but now we need to go to the next level, which is immortality. Basically, what people are asking for is immortality now to win every game that we play. And
close
now
to invincibility, Chris. It's close to invincibility to win every game.
Now he's signed again for another extension with his people that are apparently, according to some, holding him back and not backing him. So is Jurgen Klopp the problem here then, people? Is Jurgen Klopp a yes man because he's enabling owners that are not looking out for the interest of Liverpool Football Club more than De Niro and others that are saying it's FSG, it's not Jurgen Klopp we have the issue with? Because Jurgen Klopp doesn't have an issue with them. So Jurgen Klopp is an enabler. That's what I'm working out. And that's a total different ballgame and a total different conversation we need to have at some point. Because if that's the case, we need to question Jurgen Klopp for enabling these people that are just not letting us go forward and holding us back. Sorry.
I felt that, man. That was
Yes, men don't get to where we've got to. It's that simple.
Just a couple of super chats to get through. He says we need 2 kids, one this year and Jude the next. Yeah, I wouldn't agree. I wouldn't disagree with that, Trez. I think we need a couple of reinforcements in midfield, but I think he's got a lot of faith in Curtis Jones and Elliott. He has far more faith in Curtis Jones and Elliott than some of us do, but that's the way it goes. He has, we don't.
Chris, on that, you mentioned, like, I understand the frustrations. Like, I do understand the frustrations. We're all just having our opinions here on the chat. I get it. But what I would say is we're trying to catch a juggernaut, right? Now, for me, a Tielemans is not a game changer to catch that juggernaut. But someone like a Bellingham, for me, that's a statement. That can be the difference between 92 and 94 points, beating City by a point. Like, for me, that is it. And as again, not to go on and recap what I said, that's why I think this is such an important signing, because right now we need something that's going to make the difference, not something that's going to just offer or add to what we've already got. So that's why I think there's so much on this signing. And I think, to be honest, I think that's why the owners are like that. As Steve said, they're playing it close to their chest because I think they know how crucial this one is. And look, as Keith said, Madrid are shipped, 100 million on Tchouaméni when they've already got Camavinga. I know you said that already, Keith, but that shows how highly they rate him. So, yeah, to me, it's hard, but it's got to be something that's going to, like, if City have got Haaland and we've got Bellingham, it's like game on. Like, you know, that's the way I look at it.
I know. Probably you wanted to come in. Sorry, just want to read this super chat very quickly. Appreciate the support selection, of course. It goes, Grizz, I respect your opinion, and I respect yours as well. Every time, I respect everyone's opinion. The midfield definitely has a problem. I agree. Needs the most work, in my opinion. I agree. Will be interesting to see if we still go to the Portuguese market. I think it will be much more expensive. again, I couldn't care which market we go. I couldn't care how much we spend. I've said this time and time again. I just want our team to have the best chance of progressing. That's my opinion. And Jurgen Klopp will always want the best squad he has available to him to mount a challenge in all competitions. And only he will really know who that is. Someone said to me, I just want to address this one as well. Hold on 1 second. Grizz is acting like an FSG puppet. May as well be a PSG puppet.
Oh, Grizz. I got one question. I'm right in saying that Jurgen Klopp is the second highest paid person at Liverpool Football Club, wage bill, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, right? That's what FSG are investing in, having an elite manager. FSG again, corporate puppet, blah blah. They're investing all that money. They're making the second highest paid person to manage. That's what we're paying for an elite club. Like, we have the second highest wage bill in the Premier League, only behind City by like £20 million. People are getting paid. Make no mistake about it. People get paid. People are earning money. Now, if you're earning money to the levels that they speak of in terms of Manchester United, that's one thing. That's a philosophy, a way of doing things, right? But if you're successful at Liverpool Football Club, you get paid.
Correct.
What better model is there for anything in that you have for your club, to have people that come in to work for your club to know that if they perform, they get paid and get paid big? And for me, that underlines it. That underlines why I've always been a fan of the way they've done it. They've made sure that people get paid, and people get paid. I think it's a bit disingenuous as fans of Liverpool, as to sit here and talk about hundreds of thousands of pounds. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, we pay the premium to get the best players, and we have the best players playing for Liverpool Football Club and the best manager, and that's all purchased by the system and the owners that we have around us. Like, it doesn't happen without that type of level of investment. So that's how I've always seen the situation.
Phil Banda, he says Curtis Jones and Elliott in midfield to compete with City. Are you serious, man? Who have you addressed that to, Phil? Who have you addressed that to? Who has said that? And I'll wait for your answer. Who has said on this show that we believe Curtis Jones and Elliott are good enough to compete with Man City?
Every one of us has said we need strengthening, but every one of us understands the position we're in. That's the difference.
But listen, it's been a fantastic show. I don't know if you want to go. Rewind, send it to me send that footage where I said they're good enough. I said Jurgen Klopp may believe that, because if he keeps them and he plays them, that's what it means, Phil. When you keep a player and you play them and you select them, you have faith in them. That's what I said. I said we may not agree with it, but the man in charge, who's paid all those big bucks, like Keith says, who has brought us, who is the catalyst for where we are, believes that. And we may not like it. Sorry, was anyone going to say anything?
All I'd say on that point there quickly is that Klopp is on record as being a vocal admirer of both of those two players. Big time. He likes them, both of them. So if he likes them, why would we challenge that? Because
there's compilations on Twitter. There's 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds that make compilations of Twitter that make them look not good. You know, when Jurgen Klopp ran on that pitch, do you remember when we beat near the end of the season? Was it Southampton? We went to beat
2-1. Yeah, Matip scored the winner.
And he ran on the pitch, Jurgen Klopp, and Jurgen Klopp's a very clever man. You know, Jurgen Klopp's not your average dodo on Twitter or whatever. He made a very, very poignant point to make sure the cameras heard him when he came on the pitch and shouted, "Curtis Jones!" You think Jurgen Klopp?
Imagine Jurgen Klopp saying that to you. Conroy. Oh God, that would be great. I'd run for a brick wall for him.
Of course you would. Conroy would. Conroy. I'm telling you.
I was going to say my second name there, but I can't do that. You know what I mean?
Of course you can. I'm telling you, people, we forget. Look, there's a difference between what we perceive as good and right, what we need for club. That's fine. I have not blocked anyone tonight with your opinions. Say what you lot want. Rant, rave, be humble, shout. Do what you want. No problem. Everyone's entitled to react how they want to react. But at the end of the day, the reality is we're 2 weeks away from pre-season and each individual to their own. I can't fucking wait, Keith. I can't wait to see these Reds go again pre-season. Bring it on. Darwin Núñez, Carvalho, Elliot Jones, all these youngsters. What's happened? What have we had a fit about? What's Connery seen? What's Connery seen?
I've never seen.
How did you manage to get big bearded Ricky Martin?
Someone needs to go check on him.
Is Ricky Martin's?
Keith,
that's good, Keith.
It just caught me out. No, Ricky Martin's a good-looking guy, Keith. So it's a compliment, mate.
Please show me this. Bring this up.
It's a compliment. It's a compliment.
It's a compliment. Levin Davita Lukau. That was Ricky Martin.
I'll have to train for it next time.
Yeah. I like that actually. I'll be buzzing if I got
compared. It'll be a new look for me actually. I like it.
Yeah. But listen,
sorry, I could not laugh at that.
Lads, I don't want to end it on a monologue. How you guys doing? Everything good? I think we enjoyed it. Look, we had a few disagreements there. Keith didn't agree with Steve on a couple of points. I didn't agree with Conroy on a couple of points. But guess what? We had a normal, civilized chat about it, and it's all good. I didn't need to block you. I didn't need to disagree with you. I didn't shower FSG into you or FSG puppet to you. Or that's the way it goes. That's how football chat's supposed to be, man. Give your opinions, share your opinions. I didn't block one single person on the chat, and I didn't ask any of the mods to block anyone. People were making ridiculous shouts and statements. FSG puppet. I wish I was, man. Bro, man. I wish I was on the payroll, man. But what I'm saying is the person that is on their payroll, Jurgen Klopp, disagrees with quite a lot of what you lot are saying.
We're actually not in our houses, Chris. We're actually we're at AXA Training Centre right now. These are just like fake rooms we're in. We're actually, this is just a hoax. We're not.
No, but it's true though. No, but check that out. It's true though, right? The person that's on FSG's payroll disagrees with a lot of what you lot are saying. If you lot met Jurgen Klopp, would you say this shit?
I don't want a selfie. I don't want a selfie. We need a midfielder.
Yeah. But it's good, man. I think it's a wonderful show, man. It's a wonderful show. Yeah, man. Look, we have to have critical, like Pixelate Pigeon says, critical thinking. We have to have it. We have to discuss what's going on, what's about, how can we improve? Because that's what we fans do. Even off YouTube, if we met in a pub, bar, cafe, wherever, we'd sit down, we say, guys, what can we do next season to improve?
And we'd all say midfielder.
And we'd say, we'd say midfielder. Steve would say, I need a defender.
We've never met. I think we'd all say the same thing. That would be funny.
Exactly. We've got a new member in the building. Mahbub, welcome to the Grizz Khan Ultra channel, brother. You're an absolute amazing guy. People are asking, what's the perks? The perks, check in the description. How do you say this name? Someone help me, guys.
I would say it's
the. How do you say that first name?
Double I. I'm not sure.
Like Jude is easy because Jude is the player we want and we're going to get.
David Main.
Double Mayan. I want to go with that.
Double Mayan. I think
that's close. Right. I think that's closest. Yeah.
I think Keith. I think closest.
Just the comments. We've absolutely butchered that. We've absolutely butchered.
It's in the description. Double Mayan. Hope we've said you. We'll call you Jude because that's the player we're getting. Check out the membership perks. You get a social media follow from all the guys. You get your own badge. You have access to call-in shows or any of the active shows that I'm going to bring out in this season. And your comments are highlighted and we'll definitely address all your points and questions. But I appreciate the support. Guys, it's time to wrap up because I'm starving. People have made me hungry. We're hungry for success. We're hungry for transfers. We're hungry for evolution. We don't always agree about how to go on the hunt, but as long as at the end of the chase, all our aims are the same, that's all we should care about, really. Keith, I can't let you get away, man.
Every week, honestly, Mustafa, you are more consistent than us.
I love
100%.
He's made it a feature, which is the bit I love the most. Is that Keith? Hope you're well. We're getting Lesnar versus Reign for the 1,000th time. Your thoughts? Cena also returning. John Cena,
Is he returning? Whoa,
he's
that's
a
big.
actor,
That's big.
right? He'll be back. I reckon he'll fight Randy Orton at WrestleMania for the right to take Ric Flair's records. That's why I think they're going with this long term. Lesnar, Reigns is going to be in movies. You'll be seeing him soon enough.
Fair enough. I ain't got a fucking clue. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Aquaman.
This is you and your WWF malarkey.
It's not been WWF for 25 years, Chris.
Well, there you go then. There you go. That's how much you know what I mean. I care about this WWE. What is it now? E?
Yeah. Well. Yeah. It's World Wrestling Entertainment.
Entertainment. That's what it is. It's fake. It's pure made up and it's fake. Stop it.
Enough time. This is a video in itself, Chris. That's a video in itself.
Well, you can do that, innit? Do you know what I mean? But listen, Conroy, Keith, Steve, thank you very much for your time. There's still over 400 of you loyals in here, even though you haven't joined as a members. I still call you loyal. You've been amazing in the chat. You've slaughtered us. You've agreed with us. You've bantered us. You've trolled us, but we still love you. We're still here. You're still here. Conroy, hit that outro. We'll see you. Loads of content. The Daily Grizz throughout the week to round up all the footballing news. So much shit going around. We're going to discuss it all. Got different guests coming on. We've got a brilliant guest tomorrow, a Man United guy that you guys will be loving. So get checking out tomorrow's show. This has been Sunday night, Red Fellas. We out of here.